Krush Kent, Baltimore guardian angel and founder of the Remember Me organization. I have with me today C.D. Witherspoon. C.D. is the president of the SCLC. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
As you indicated, president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Baltimore City chapter. Of course, nationally, we were founded by the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In 1967 on the back heels of the victory with the Montgomery bus boycott. We were founded just to facilitate the change in the spirit of the energy that took place that led to the desegregation of bus systems in Montgomery.
Tell me, what are you all doing in the community today?
Sure, we are attempting to the very best of our ability to live out the dream, to walk the walk, if you will, of the dream laid out by the late Reverend Dr. King. We want to make sure that as the organization that he co-founded and served as the first national president of, that we represent and reflect the principles that he stood for. We want to build a multi-generational movement that addresses the issues in relationship to the poor. We're still very much concerned about the poor in the fashion that Dr. King was, but we're also concerned about addressing issues in relationship to racism and increasingly economic discrimination and class as well. We believe that racism, classism, and economic discrimination are the three evils that continue to plague our community and that disenfranchise a host of different people regardless of race, creed, and color.
Okay. What is your take on the Trayvon Martin tragedy?
I think that the word that you use, tragedy, I think that's very, very appropriate. It certainly was a tremendous tragedy, and I think it took our nation back to some degree to a dark place. Profiling was definitely an issue in this case. In my opinion, clearly it was an issue that the community could not get past to some degree because there are so many similar issues that people deal with like that on a daily basis. And Trayvon was a symbol. He was a symbol of the modern day struggle for freedom, and he was a North Star in terms of the same star, of course, that guided the slaves to freedom. He connected the dots for so many different people because people have experienced those type of situations in the past. I think for us here in Baltimore, we're reflecting on the Sean Rim case that took place here a couple of years ago. There have been 6 postponements in that particular case, and people are thirsty and hungry for justice in that case. So I think that, that Trayvon became a symbol for justice, and that he became a rallying cry, and that our task in the days and weeks to come are to utilize that energy and that passion and that commitment that people have for justice to apply it here at home to several of the local injustices that we experience daily.
Young African American males die every day in this country. I know that young African American males make up about 96% of the homicides right here in Baltimore, Maryland. Having said that, why do you think that the Trayvon Martin case has garnered national attention?
Well, I think that similarly to the LA riots that took place, the Trayvon Martin situation was in a sense a culmination of a host of different issues that people have experienced over the course of time. I think that the timing of the case had a tremendous effect in that as well. There's a high rate of unemployment in the community. There are a high number of young people in Baltimore City in particular that don't have employment opportunities and won't have summer jobs, and they won't have access to swimming pools and things of that particular nature. So I think that what has happened is the incident in and of itself was a tremendous tragedy, and again they had symptoms of racism and classism and economic discrimination tied to that. But the timing of this also played a role because people are, in a sense, going through hell, if you will, trying to make it from day to day, living from hand to fist, and dealing with some of the economic hardships that they're experiencing. This was a culmination of a host of different issues, and I think that to some degree it erupted. I don't think that it exploded, but I think that it erupted to the degree that people's passions kind of sort of boiled. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I think that anger is not a bad thing unless it's focused and channeled properly. That's when it can become a positive thing. And it's good for people to have righteous indignation. So as long as it's channeled and focused, it can be a really positive thing. So I think our task is really to just channel that and to ensure that we're focused and we're looking at productive solutions to localize this issue and to bring triumph out of tragedy.
You organized one of the biggest rallies I think my generation has seen in a long time. How can we keep that momentum going?
Well, what we've got to do is we've got to let people know that they have a role to play and that everybody has something valuable to contribute. You know, I think that we come in contact with systems to some degree sometimes that are elitist, and sometimes you have to have certain resources at your disposal. You have to have a certain level of affluence and things of that nature in order to be able to have a seat at the table and contribute something. But we need to know that in the days and weeks ahead as we move forward, that everybody has something valuable to contribute. Because even if your schedule is very crowded, and we know that people are busy attempting to make ends meet and trying to provide for their families, but everybody can find time to attend a PTA or Board of Estimates meeting or a school board meeting. And if you're too busy for that, certainly you can exercise your constitutional right to vote. You can also join the community association. If only being a paid member, what it does is it provides some level of contribution to the work of that association to protect the community. And even if you can't do that, we recommend that people begin to just reinvest and recommit themselves to their families, making sure that fathers are responsible and that mothers do their roles and that the kids even chip in to clean the front steps, making sure that the family operates as a unit and a real safeguard to the community, starting with their own front porch. So our contention is we all have something to contribute, whether you're 10 or 100. If you're physically able, if you have a care and a compassion in your heart to do something, we've got to relay that everybody can do something and that everybody's contribution is equally valuable.
All right. Okay. Earlier you touched on the notion of justice. In your opinion, what is justice?
I think justice really is a spiritual concept to some degree. There are certain rights and freedoms that we enjoy that cannot be regulated by government. And those unregulated rights and freedoms are rooted in our hearts, and we as individuals know what they are. And I think that they help to establish our convictions and our principles, and we've got to stick by those, and we've got to be good stewards by those, and we've got to demand accountability of ourselves by our own principles, and we've got to demand accountability from the general public and from our elected leadership, because I think we've got to get back to, we want people to be good citizens, but we just also fundamentally want people to be good people. So if we stay true to our own convictions and our principles, then justice will become something that all of us subscribe to. Because we all know what's right and wrong. And we need to always allow for that to be at the epicenter of our core beliefs. And that needs to motivate our actions and our responses and even our activism.
Okay. What are some of your goals for the SCLC?
Certainly we have to make sure that we, again, encourage people to do their part, every single person, regardless of who you are, regardless of what your economic background is or how old you are. We've got to encourage people to do their part. I think that we also have to do the piece in relationship to encouraging people to vote. But if folk choose not to be involved in the electoral process for one reason or another, we encourage people to be a part of the community association and to attend the PTA meetings. But we need to make sure that as an organization being founded by Dr. King and being served as the first president of this organization, that we be standard bearers for his legacy and for his vision for this country and for this nation. And we have to be the organization that brings in a host of different people, have a really multinational, multi-generational movement. It's important to take note of the fact that when SCLC was founded, we were founded by ministers that were in their early 30s at the time. You know what I mean? Late 20s, early 30s. So we've got to cultivate a new generation of people. We've got to cultivate different types of people, different organizations with different missions, but that we can agree on certain aspects of our overall agenda so that we can support each other and create a collective change that we can all benefit from. So the SCLC has to be that organization that subscribes to justice from a spiritual component, something that is universal and inalienable to everybody, you know.
Okay. How can organizations like the Baltimore Guardian Angels and Remember Me aid the SCLC in achieving their goals?
Well, I think that just by playing our role, I think that we're really very much like an assembly line, and that we're all inextricably bound together. That's what Dr. King said. We're all inextricably bound together, and we're all to some degree codependent upon each other. So we all have to continue simply to do our role to make our city, our state, and our country a better place. But I also think that in terms of the Guardian Angels, Remember Me in specific, we need to have organizations like you all assisting and being invited to the table to do the training for a lot of these citizens on patrol groups that are doing work in the city. Because we need to make sure that the proper training is there so that we can have the confidence in these COPs. Because we believe that there's some folk who really do want to do good work. And we don't want to paint all these organizations with a broad brush. But at the same time, we need to make sure that the training component is there from a credible source that the community respects. A group like the Guardian Angels, with the assistance of groups like Remember Me. So I'm looking forward to, in the days and weeks ahead, advocating and asking for the city to make sure that these groups are effectively trained by groups like the Angels with a certain level of confidence that they have earned in the hearts and minds of the general public. So I'm looking forward to a continued partnership. We work together with the Felicia Barnes case, another tragedy, and I'm sure we'll work together in the future.
Right. If Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were alive today, what do you think he would say about the SCLC?
I think that he would be enthusiastic about the fact that we're still running strong. We are the organization, quite frankly, that had our president literally assassinated, you know, while he was in the service of this organization. And so having stated that, it was a tragedy, and I think for us to be able to continue to push forward and to persevere, I think that says something about the character of the SCLC. So I think that he would be excited about that component. But I also think that he would not be satisfied and that he would not be complacent. I think that that was the character of Dr. King. I think that after the victory with the desegregation of the buses in Montgomery, he could have very well have been satisfied with the status of his contribution to this country. Having stated that, I think that he would say to us that we need to continue to keep on marching. We need to continue to advocate in the legislature. We need to continue to challenge things from a judicial capacity when necessary, and that we should not get satisfied, as he indicated, until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream, and until we effectively contend with poverty, until we effectively contend with unemployment, until we effectively contend for a lack of opportunity for our young people, until we effectively contend with a lack of love for each other and for ourselves. So I think that he would say, decent job, but job half done, in a sense.
Okay. If people wanted to learn more about the SCLC and get in contact with you, president of the SCLC, how can they do that?
Sure. My phone number is 410-500-2168, 410-500-2168. We're also available by Facebook, and we're also coming up with the website so that we can make sure that we are available to a variety of different generations, and making sure that we plug in a generation of people that Dr. King was actually a part of in his lifetime that are sometimes left out of the process from a civil rights perspective and capacity. So we encourage everybody to give us a call.
Great. Well, thank you. It was a
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you.